Today I want to talk and play through 5 iconic Japanese guitar riffs spanning across different genres of Japanese rock music and break down what makes each one uniquely Japanese so we can learn from their playing styles. These are songs with millions of strings across the world and a lot of them feature in major anime series. So let's get started. So this riff from the song What's My Name by the Japanese guitar player Miyavi in 2010 just sets such a great tone for this video because it's just so characteristically J-rock or J-pop. So J-rock playing borrows a lot from Western funk. So honestly, there are probably way more iconic bass lines in J-pop and J-rock than there are guitar riffs. But this riff borrows from the iconic slap bass technique and applies it to the guitar. And of course, all the while singing Japanese melodies and J-pop-like melodies all over it. So just super cool. So this riff is tuned a whole step down and just uses this super classic slap technique with tasty fills and licks throughout. As for the tone, it might just sound like classic American overdrive, but there's actually a bit of compression, which gives J-rock guitars that kind of focused, produced tone. That's super common, as we shall see throughout the rest of this video. In this case, I'm using the 4th position pickup for this song, but the 3rd position pickup is way more common, as we shall see as well. This is not the only song with slap guitar in J-pop. There are plenty others in anime too, like the opening for the anime Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. Anyhow, let's move on. Next, we got this riff from the song Fiction by the J-rock band Polkadot Stingray in 2020. This is probably more typical of what you'll hear on a J-pop song, a kind of 3rd position, clean, compressed tone with funk rhythm and playing. Though, to make it more J-pop, I probably have to get a Telecaster versus using the Stratocaster. Another example of this kind of clean, compressed funk playing would be the popular Japanese duo Yorushika. Beyond that, what makes this song sound Japanese is this 2-3-6-3 jazzy progression. Japanese music takes a lot of inspiration from jazz, as we shall see. J-pop is known for its very melancholic sound, and this progression brings out very well with the use of mostly minor chords. So we got 2, 3, 6, they're all minor, so it's like kind of sad and emotional. And then we top it off with a major third, making a minor third a major third. This is a common trick used in jazz and J-pop. It just gives a very uplifting yet kind of lonely feeling. Combined with some funk techniques, it sounds like. If you're interested in learning more about cool J-pop chords, check out this video where I talk about common chord tricks that J-pop uses. On to the next riff. Here we got this iconic song Goodbye by the legendary Japanese math rock band Toe in 2009. If you watch anime, you might recognize them from the anime Sonny Boy from their song Sonny Boy Rhapsody in 2021. Anyhow, we got a little bit of compression again on this 3rd position pickup tone. But what's coolest here is that they're really just playing one chord in this entire riff and filling the space with this one chord. It's this E major chord. And what the guitar player is doing is basically just alternating between playing the bass note and different chord tones. Kind of borrowing from this idea of modes in jazz, Japanese players love exploring different chord tones in a chord. But what's even cooler here is that the guitar player places a capo on the 2nd fret, so he can play the bass note as an open string note. So now the open D string becomes an E note, the bass note in the E major chord. This is another common technique that Japanese players play with, open strings, as we shall see in the next example too. And now all of a sudden, this chord sounds so much more interesting. Let's move on to the next example with open string playing too. This is the song Potage by the Japanese math rock band Tricot in 2018. They're a super cool band because they combine math rock instrumentation like Toe, but with J-pop melodies and arrangement. It's a similar idea to the previous riff, Toast Goodbye, with this compressed third position tone and open string playing, but more distortion used here. And what's different too is also this jazzy progression that's used under the 4, 6, 2, 5 minor chord progression. So the 4, 6, 2, 5 progression is very common in jazz. But what's most interesting here for J-pop is that this 5 chord is made a minor chord. So usually the 5 chord of a key is a major chord. But it's common in J-pop to make the 5 chord or the 4 chord of a key a minor chord, to give it that kind of melancholic sound, because it's very unexpected. It's like it's supposed to be a major chord, but now it's a minor chord. I actually made a video about a really popular J-pop progression that uses the 5 minor, so check it out if you're interested. But on top of this progression, we also got this 3 chord sequence finish. So it goes on to the 3, 4, and then finishing on the 6. So it's a pretty long progression, but again, it finishes on the 6. A chord that does not resolve super well. So it's like, okay, we're kind of back home because the 6 is the minor 6 is a relative minor for the major 1. But it's like, but I feel kind of sentimental to be home. We're not like ecstatic like we would be if it were a major 1 chord. The use of such a long chord progression is also characteristic of J-pop. So Western music, like American music, tends to use progressions that just have 4 chords. For example, the popular 1-5, 6-4. But in this case, this song we're using 4, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4, 6. Super long, and J-pop progressions tend to be this way. So it's almost like as if we're going on a journey or just telling a long story. So playing this jazzy progression with open string techniques, it would sound like. This is probably the most iconic anime riff of all time, used on the anime The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya in 2009. So again, we use the third position pickup for the tone with compression and a lot of distortion. And we seemingly just do this Western rock-like kind of high-speed picking part. But what makes it sound Japanese is really the progression used underneath. So on rhythm guitar, we got the 4, 5, 3, 6 Royal Road progression. There are a bunch of videos on the Japanese Royal Roll progression and why it's the most Japanese sounding. But to give my quick take, it sounds melancholic because we first go from the major 4 to the 5, which gives a sense of hope and anticipation since we're going up 1 step. But then we come down to the minor 3rd. So it's like, oh, that's not quite what we expected. We thought it's going to keep going higher, but we're coming down. So it's like, wow, what's going to happen next? And then we go to the minor 6. We end there. So minor 6 is a relative minor chord for the home chord, the major 1 chord. So it's like, okay, we're kind of home, but not really. It's like a bittersweet homecoming. It's like, we would be happier if we were going back to the 1 chord, but instead it's like the minor 6 version of it, the minor version. On top of that, the song is in the key of E major, so it allows us to use open strings, a technique that Japanese players love using, as we've talked about. As we've seen, typically it's a combination of jazzy chords, compressed tone, and funky kind of tendencies that make up the bulk of Japanese rock guitar playing. And of course, ideally using a Telecaster instead of a Stratocaster. Now, of course, these are just 5 examples of prominent Japanese rock guitar riffs. They're really iconic songs with like super sick bass lines or super sick riffs that sound more Western, or even just riffs I'm not aware of. So comment down below with your what do you think the most iconic Japanese rock guitar riffs are? And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.